Steve Blum. Everybody give Steve a round of applause. Let's get him up here. We're going to have some fun and ask some questions, do a little Q&A. It's going to be a blast.
Thank you. Dr. Applesauce, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah, that is me, huh?
That is you, right?
Yeah. It's an honor to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Some of the roles that you've done over the years are phenomenal. Some of my favorites, I know I've told you this. I even have a Cowboy Bebop tattoo, which is
Nice.
cool. It's the only anime tattoo that I have. What's been your most memorable experience, like with a fan interaction?
Yeah, there are two that come to mind. There was one where I was in New Zealand, and a huge Maori-looking guy came up to me. I think he was actually Samoan. Big man, very intimidating looking. And he told me that he had a child who was autistic and nonverbal and would sit and rock in the corner. And they had some visual cues and things as a way of communication. But one day, the child jetted from the corner and jumped up onto the couch when a certain show came on TV. And he was dumbfounded because the kid had never done anything like that before. And so the kid is watching this show, and he sits down next to him, and he goes, what are you watching? And the kid just goes, shh. And he goes, oh, okay. And at the commercial, the kid just turns to him in perfect English. The first words he ever said to him was, I like that, Daddy. And it was Digimon. And it was my character,
Guilmon, you guys remember Guilmon from Digimon?
yes.
Thank you. Thank you. You get bread.
So anyway, he said that unlocked something in the little boy's brain, and he began speaking after that. And so from that moment on, every time Digimon came on, the family watched it together, and they started having conversations, and he got him involved with other kids on the spectrum who had social anxiety and stuff, but they loved Digimon and loved anime in general. And it started building a community for him. Wow. And I just started crying. He started crying. And the next day, I see this big person in this long line of people at my signing table, and it's the same guy. And I'm looking over there, I'm thinking, why are you waiting in line again? And I said, come here. And he goes, no, it's okay. And so I just excused myself from my line, and I went back there, and he brought the little boy who was now, I think he was like 12 years old, with his little sister and the mom. And I just started breaking down crying, and we were all hugging, and it was a magical moment that made me realize that I'm actually doing something of value out here. Yeah. Wow. So my parents, my dad was a doctor, tried to get me to follow in his footsteps or something academic, and I just wasn't interested in any of that stuff. And he said, well, you're wasting your life on these stupid cartoons. And then I told him that story, and he goes, oh, okay, it sounds like you're doing something of value. So that kind of changed me as a person and as an actor, and gave me a little bit of a better feeling about what I was doing with my life.
Isn't it interesting how the things that we do can have such an impact on people? Even myself as a full-time creator, to some degree, I've had similar experiences like that, and it's a very humbling moment, because to you, you're just you, right? And to me, I'm just me, but to know that we've done something or created something that's impacted people in any way is really awesome, and it's an encouragement for everybody. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a voice actor or a YouTuber, or you work at a restaurant, or you sit at a desk all day. There's people around you every day that are watching you that could use your encouragement or your love or something that you uniquely have. You don't have to be on a stage like we are to do those things, and I think it's such a beautiful thing.
I've had people come up to my signing table and tell me that they didn't know who I was, and I would see them in public and we'd have an interaction somewhere, and that really stuck with them. That interaction brought them back from the depths of a depression or something. They didn't realize who I was, and many years later, their friends got them to watch a show or play a game, and they tell me that moment they never forgot, because it made them feel seen and validated. So, yeah, you have no idea what your impact is out there in the world. So do good out there in the world, and it really does have a ripple effect. It's amazing.
Absolutely. So I read that kind of this whole journey started for you when you were 12, sorting comics at your uncle's bookstore, right? And you're reading all these comics, and that kind of started the nerd fandom. And then here you are now. At what point along that, up and down journey did you realize, like, oh, this is what I'm going to do, and I've finally got to, I finally at a good place where I'm not having to worry all the time? Was it a specific role? Was it a milestone?
It was about age 43 when I finally started making money at voiceover. I've been doing voiceover for years, and the comic book thing, yeah, I loved it. I really loved working in a comic book store. I used to read all the comics, I collected them. Later on, I went to school, and my parents had all my comic book collection in their garage, and rats ate them all.
Oh, no.
And so I kind of lost that lust for collecting and stuff. It wasn't until many, many, many years later, and I had been working in as a voice actor for many years, and it wasn't until about age 43, something like that, where I could actually start supporting myself. And I had 3 other jobs to support that voice acting habit. So it wasn't a sudden moment, it was just sort of a cumulative thing when I could start quitting one job at a time and be able to support myself. And then I realized this is really what I want to do for a living. I did it for fun because I love to do it. And I always tell my students at bloomvoxstudios.com that you guys should just follow your dreams. Do the things that really make you happy, and then do all the other stuff that you have to do to support that. Sometimes it'll even pay the bills. And if it doesn't, you're still doing the thing you love. So
That's so true. I did this for 2 years, working construction full-time, 40 to 50 hours a week, then going home and making videos for 20 to 30 hours a week. No pay or anything before anything even came from it. I was just doing it because I loved it. So that's such a good point. I'm going to ask Steve another question, but while I ask that question, if we have like 4 or 5 people that want to come up and ask a question, come make a line, and we'll get to as many people as we can. So there's a mic right there. Come wait, and then I'm going to ask Steve one more question.
yeah,
So
don't make me come down there. I will.
don't be
Do it.
afraid. You're welcome. I saw the hand. I saw your hand. Go ahead. Come on up and
Ask me anything. Literally anything.
So, in my opinion, your most iconic role, and probably a lot of people's opinion, is Spike Speigle. It's my favorite anime character. I could talk up here for hours about Cowboy Bebop and the lore and how it's so amazing because it takes place after all the main characters' like stories are already over and the fallout of all that and stuff. But for you, how did the role of Spike Speigle come into fruition, and how did you figure out how you wanted to portray that character?
Well, I was working at a studio called Magnitude 8. We were doing a lot of the old anime prior to Cowboy Bebop. And there's a guy named Kevin Seymour there who was kind of a mentor to all of us, and he was really kind of running the show for all of the early anime that we were recording. And Cowboy Bebop came along, and it wasn't doing well in Japan. They were showing it out of order, and some of the episodes they couldn't show for censorship reasons. And so they got frustrated in Japan, and they licensed it out to this company in LA. And there's a guy named Yutaka Maseba and Ken Iodomi who had started this little company, and they wanted to try to start dubbing some stuff. And so this is a throwaway show for them. And so they gave it to the lady who became my wife, Mary Elizabeth McGlynn.
Who ironically also played Spike's
She played
love
Julia
interest.
on the show, yeah. And we had just met on that show. We were we had both married with other people. We just became friends on that show. It was her first directing gig, my first leading role. And so Kevin just basically gave us those roles because he didn't know what to do with it. And he cast us based on the people who he was working with at the time. And we walked into that room, and there was no supervision. It was just the engineer and Mary and me.
Wow.
And so we got to make the show we wanted to make.
Wow.
She would watch the episodes ahead of time. Everything was a cold read for me, but she kind of guided me through that process and taught me how to be a proper actor during the course of that show.
Wow.
And that show, of course, led to so many other things later on. But really, it was just a passion project for us.
That's awesome.
And we just made something that we would want to see.
That explains why it ended up so well done, because it was a passion project that you guys really got to put into it what you wanted, and you weren't confined by it has to be this way, it has to be this way. And I would assume even to another extent, like you weren't so much confined by the Japanese version because it wasn't doing so well. You had a little more flexibility and freedom.
Exactly, yeah. We had more time also. She had time to do more quality control for the lip movements, so it was a better quality dub than a lot of dubs at that time. And then just being able to make up songs for Edward, it was incredible to watch that process with Melissa Fawn doing that character and creating this whole new version of Edward that didn't exist in the original Japanese. So yeah, it truly was our own version. And then it went back to Japan, and they re-released it there, and it did really well.
Wow.
With our version, and then they they started releasing the subtitle
That's
versions.
really
into-
cool.
Yeah,
I never
so-
knew that story. That's
Yeah,
very
we
interesting.
found that out on stage with some of the creators, and we all sat there kind of crying and hugging. It was amazing when we found that out.
Awesome. Okay, let's take some of the questions that we have. First one, you can come on up and ask your question.
How's it going? So my name's Lewis.
Great.
Very nice to meet you, Steve.
Nice to meet you.
My question would be, I'm a huge fan, obviously grew up with Toonami, and you're such an icon and such a legend. But I really loved you as Amon. I don't know if anyone else knows he played Amon from Legend of Korra. Such a rich and a diverse bad guy. Love that character. So my question would be, do you have a future in future Avatar: The Last Airbender projects, since there is, stuff coming up?
I wish that was up to me. I'm just a voice actor, dude. I audition and I will work on it if they allow me to, but it's really not up to me at all. I will say yes if they ask me, though. Absolutely.
Awesome.
And that one was especially meaningful to me because Andrea Romano was our director, who is one of the greatest directors of all time. She's retired now, but she did most of the Batman stuff and a lot of the DC things. But she was a hero of mine, and I actually got to work with her for that whole show. Lance Hendrickson, one of the greatest on-camera actors, I think, of all time. He got to be my henchman in that. It was crazy. And we got to do table reads, too, so we got to work as a whole cast before we recorded. We could only record 2 or 3 people at a time at Nickelodeon, but, man, so many happy memories. And I loved playing a villain where I didn't have to be so big and bold. Amon, she had me speak very quietly, and that was chilling, I thought. It became one of my favorite villains of all time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. And you've been purified.
Great question.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Xylus, and I'm 35. Been a huge fan of Cowboy Bebop since I was like 13. It's without hesitation, Cowboy Bebop's my favorite anime. If anybody asks me, I just wanted to say that it's been a huge part of my life, and thank you. But I wanted to ask, what did you think of the Netflix live action?
I get asked that so often. I was cheering on John Cho when everybody was hating on him. I loved him as an actor anyway in all of his on-camera stuff, and I just wanted to see what they do live action. I'm way too lazy to work out that hard to be able to do those stunts. So I was really excited to see what they would do in live action. We actually made it an event at our house. We surround ourselves with nerds wherever we are in the world. And so we made an event out of it. We had food and popcorn, and we just sat and just watching it and enjoying it. I had a couple issues with it. I didn't like that Vicious was so wild-eyed and crazy, because to my mind, he doesn't need to be that. He's just scary on his own, sort of like Amon.
Cold and
He's scary just with that low-key thing. And I didn't like the portrayal of Julia either. They made her a victim, and I live with the lady who played Julia. She ain't no victim. Yeah, I love the kind of woman that can kick my ass, so yeah.
Thank you very much.
Other than that, I loved it. Yeah, thanks, man.
Hey, how you doing, Steve?
I'm great. How are you?
Okay, you portrayed one of my favorite Mortal Kombat character, Sub-Zero. What was your mindset getting into Sub-Zero?
My mindset for Sub-Zero was just to rip out a spine with ease. That he was that powerful where he didn't really have to force anything. He was one of those fighters that I just felt literally kept his cool all the time. It was really fun. I love Sub-Zero specifically because I didn't have to scream too. And so many video game characters I have to scream or do something that's really vocally stressful. So Sub-Zero was sort of like whispering. Is really a comforting character for me. Baraka, on the other hand, I'm literally doing this voice for everything he says. And Baraka speaks in full soliloquies. Brutal, absolutely brutal. They didn't alter my voice at all, so.
Okay, and
Sub-Zero holds a nice chill place in my heart.
okay, can I get an I'll freeze your soul?
I'll freeze your soul.
Thank you.
My name is Sadman, and my question is, hosting Toonami for years as Tom, what is your favorite show on Toonami?
Oh, how do you choose? Well, I don't watch a lot of shows, not even my own, so I'd have to say Cowboy Bebop. Oh, you've heard of Cowboy Bebop. Awesome. I love Toonami. The thing I actually love the most about voicing Tom is the inspirational videos. It's like the fall down 7 times, get up 8 video is something that sticks with me in the back of my mind because I mess up a lot, and there's always a chance for redemption. So those are the kinds of things that really, really stick with me. And the creators of Toonami feel that way too. So we like to do good out in the world, and it's affected a lot of people positively. So I really appreciate the opportunity for that, and thank you for watching Toonami.
Thank you. Do you have a favorite line as Tom?
A line is Tom?
Yeah, do you have a favorite Tom line?
Every Saturday night, only Toonami on Adult Swim.
Thank you.
That's so awesome. As a kid, I would always look forward to that and see that. I'm like, oh, we got to sit down and get the popcorn and stay up too late and probably watch shows that I should have been watching when I was 13, 14 years old. But hey, that's neither here nor there.
Please apologize to your parents for me. I'll accept the blame.
Hi, Steve. My name is Sam.
Sam.
I'm curious, as an artist, as a creative, what keeps you going? What keeps you inspired when, you're maybe not feeling the best about your artwork?
Honestly, coming to conventions and hearing your stories. That's the thing that really fuels me. When I just had somebody come up to my table a little while ago and say that their mom is going through cancer right now. And watching these shows bonds the family and gives them something that uplifts them and keeps them together. That's the stuff that really hits me in the feels and keeps me motivated to keep working. So, often I will come home from a convention run where I'll be doing 3 or 4 cities in a row. I'll be dead tired. I'll have a bunch of work to do, and I'll go into the studio, and I have to sort of recenter myself, and I have to remind myself that I get to do this work. I don't have to. And I've had so many jobs. In the 3 jobs that I had to support my voiceover habit, I hated going to work every day. I did that for money and survival. This stuff I do because I truly love it, and I truly love what it does for people out there in the world. So sometimes I have to remind myself of that and just tell myself that I do get to do this. That's what really gets me going again. Also, playing with my dog, hanging out with my wife. I live in Hawaii, going outside, scuba diving, being with nature. It helps me to reset too.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I think I speak for everyone here when I say you're an inspiration to all of us.
Thank you for that. I appreciate you. Hi.
Hi, I'm Lena, and I've been watching Star Wars Rebels since I was a kid. And when I saw you were going to be here, I literally flipped out. So I wanted to ask, how much fun was it to play Zeb?
Oh, Zeb holds a very, very deep place in my heart. I've been a Star Wars fan since 1977. I was there opening weekend of the original movie. Saw it like 4 or 5 times in a row. And it was one of the few things that really brought me out of my funk as a student. I was in a high school that was just sort of falling apart. I didn't even go to my own graduation, didn't care about anything. And that summer, just before the summer hit, the movie opened. And the moment I saw that cruiser come across the screen, all of us were vibrating. We didn't have THX until that moment. So to get really good sound quality and something that looked realistic and these lovable characters was something that changed my life, literally changed my life. So to get to work in the Star Wars universe in any capacity, I was squeeing inside like a little 8-year-old girl. And I started out in the Star Wars games as stormtroopers and side characters and things. But to get to play a character like we're bringing a character to life that existed only in the minds of the designers. Zeb was the original design for the Wookiees. And very similar to that, they actually made an action figure. Looks just like Zeb, except with a little more hair. To get to bring that to life, Ralph McQuarrie's designs was a boy's dream come true. It's amazing. And every time I get to work on a Star Wars project, I do have that inner squee. And I actually got to go to Skywalker Ranch. Yeah, I actually got to stay at Skywalker Ranch. All of the Star Wars groups, the Rebel Alliance, and the Stormtrooper guys, all those guys, they give me these patches at every convention. It's amazing. So yeah,
that's so cool.
It's amazing to be part of that community, and it's global. It's like this everywhere in the world. So I'm so grateful to be part of it. Thank you for watching.
Yeah.
And may the Force and the Ashla be with you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, my name's Millie, and so I really like Wolverine and like Marvel and stuff like that. So I was wondering, what was it like voicing Wolverine?
By the 20-year anniversary
Yes.
of voicing it, Wolverine, right?
That's what I just heard. My friend Jantmore, he's a streamer. He just reminded me that it was 20 years. It was amazing, actually. I grew up in a comic book store, and before Wolverine existed, I'm that old. But Wolverine, once I started seeing the Wolverine comics, that first comic with Wolverine and the Hulk, I just thought, oh man, that's so cool. And whenever I'm reading a comic, I don't know if you're like this, but I hear voices in my head of the characters. So that was the voice that I heard in my head as I'm reading a comic. And then later on, fortunately, I was old enough, my voice had dropped enough. So when I got to audition for X-Men Legends, which was the first time I played him, fortunately, that's the voice that came out. It was the voice in my head, and they agreed. And that was as simple as it was, and they kept hiring me for Wolverine. So whenever I play Wolverine, I invest myself very deeply. Every punch that you see on screen, I'm throwing that punch. Every hit that I take, I'm taking that hit internally. Every time I play Wolverine, I feel like I've been in battle. So I'm right there with you.
And what's your favorite Wolverine line that you've done?
I'm the best there is at what I do, but what I do isn't very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to let everybody know, this is going to be our last question. I apologize. We are on a tight schedule, and we are already a few minutes over. Thank you so much for being willing to come and ask questions, but this will have to be our last one for today.
And I will be at my table after this, too. We're going to take a quick lunch break. I'll be back at my table. Come to the table, ask me your questions. I'll be happy to answer them.
Then hopefully I'll make this good. My name
No
is Adam.
pressure.
I know a lot of people are here for some of your bigger roles and everything that's on the posters, but the first time I actually heard you was one of your more smaller roles from Ratchet and Clank Going Commando, the thug leader.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, and your filmography is filled with like these little like additional voices and everything from all these different projects. Do you have like a set of criteria in your mind that you think of for when you're going to say yes or no to a given project? And have you actually ever looked at like a script or an opportunity and went, no, I'm not doing that? Like, any examples?
The only two instances that I've done that, one was for cigarette commercials.
Okay.
Back in the day when they still had cigarette commercials. I just was not interested because I had a lot of friends and family who had cancer from that, and I was very deeply affected by it. So I said, no, I won't do that.
We all thank you
I will
for that.
still do that with certain drugs, like drug companies.
Really?
They pay really well, but there's certain drugs that I don't think they're healthy for people to consume, so I'll do that. The only other thing I ever walked away from was an anime project that was just titled Project X. And I walked into the room, and I played a lot of creatures back then. So they didn't tell me anything about it. They put the script in front of me. I'm watching this thing, and I'm this big creature with tentacles. And then all of a sudden, a young girl shows up. And you can imagine what happened after that.
Ooh.
So I just said, oh, it's that kind of thing. And she was violated, and it was horrible. And I just said, maybe there's a market for this. I'm not going to judge you, but I'm out. And I ripped up my contract, and I walked out.
Wow.
I just couldn't do it because it was really abusive.
Yeah, I
And-
don't blame you.
Yeah, but everything else that anybody's ever asked me to do, I'm a whore. Hire me.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for bringing that up too. Ratchet and Clank. I was so excited to work on that. It was really fun.
You are amazing there.
Thank you.
Everybody, let's give Steve Blum a hand.
Thank you. That'd be great. Yeah.
Everybody, Steve is back there at his booth. Go say hi to him. We're going to end with a selfie with you guys, and then